So welcome everybody. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for your patience while we got started and while we got waited for some people to get hooked in. So welcome to the people from Australia. Thank you for taking time out of your evening. And thank you for the guys from South Africa for taking time out of your lunchtime to be with us. We don't take your time for granted, so we really appreciate you being here. So just a little bit of housekeeping quickly before we get going. If we can make sure that we have all distractions minimized. So take your ADD device, the attention disruptor device, and put it one side, maybe switch it on silent so that it doesn't interrupt you. Make sure that you have a pen and paper handy because I'm sure there will be some good, valuable information for you that you would like to note down and be reminded of in future. And maybe close your email program and Facebook and your browser and all other things and just keep the app open. Just quickly again for the Zoom interface, towards the bottom of your screen, you will see a gray bar or a black bar. Or if you're on a mobile device, it will be, if you tap it will be on your top right. There's a little button there that looks like a call out. You can press on that. We will take questions in the chat. All right, so we will have a Q&A at the end of the webinar, but please type your questions into that chat for me. That's the easiest way to handle it when there's quite a lot of people on a webinar. So quickly on the agenda, our guest speaker for today is Dr. Frederik Schroyens. I will introduce him shortly. But we will have a Q&A at the end of the webinar. So please, if you have a question, jot it down so that you can type it. We're going to try not to interrupt the webinar during the progress of it. And then at the end of the webinar, I will give a very, very brief overview of new features within the Radar Opus program, as well as a very exclusive deal. We'll call it a Black Friday deal. We don't really do Black Friday in many of the countries, but we'll call it a Black Friday deal. All right. And then at the end of the webinar, at the very end, I will do the lucky draw for the South African attendees. And Marie Eccleston from Australia, she will deal with her attendees individually. I will make sure that she gets the people who attended, and then she will do her lucky draw by email. All right. So, and then at the end, obviously, we will close. So with that, let's not waste any more time and let's get going on introducing you to our guest speaker. Just make sure that my screen isn't sharing anymore. Fantastic. So great. So we're very privileged to have Dr. Frederik Schroyens with us today. He's a medical doctor and he qualified with his homeopathic degree in 1978 and very quickly moved into a leadership position, getting involved in teaching and training, basically from the word go almost. So he's been involved in training for over, what would that be, from 1981, if I remember correctly, Frederik, that is what, it's 40 years almost. Eh?
Yes.
And he was instrumental in getting the largest homeopathic school in Belgium started. He's lectured in numerous languages. I know him since probably around about 1996, 97, when my mom became the radar dealer for South Africa.
Yes.
So yeah, it's a long road that one walks and you forget how special people are. But you know, Frederik is an extremely busy homeopath. He's very busy in his teaching career, in his research career with the synthesis repertory, which we know to be the leading repertory worldwide. And over above all of that, he still has time to be a musician and he has time to also go biking and to go for walks. And he's a very, very good photographer. Whenever he goes traveling, he loves taking photographs. And over all of that, he also has a very, very keen and refined sense of humor. So I hope we see a little bit of that in his presentation today as well. So without further ado, let me hand over to you, Frederik, and you can start sharing your screen. Hey?
Okay, I'll start sharing my screen. Voila. Tell me if this is okay.
Yes, we can see it.
All right. So first of all, it's about evidence-based homeopathy, and it's also about a simple patient file. And I must tell you that maybe one of those words is a little bit misleading. It's the word simple. Yeah? But I thought it may be more appealing to you to start saying simple patient file. In fact, the word is smart patient file. And my lecture will be to explain to you how you can enter patient information into a simple and smart patient file, leading you to be prepared, helping you to be prepared to practice evidence homeopathy, to contribute to the evidence base worldwide. That's the whole idea. Now, I will go very quickly through the steps we all know. In fact, I will run through them, but each time I will give you a hint what is important on this level. What is the little trick, the little smart, simple trick. So what is our daily practice? It is in fact collecting the signs and symptoms, the subjective and objective symptoms of our patients. And this is the first little trick, to note them in an electronic patient file. And this is important because if we work on paper, we are not connecting to the world. And to do it electronically, this is really the way to connect to a database, to reach out to other colleagues, to avoid the unreadable handwriting as my own, I must say. So please make a little effort to start typing information. And then as usual, we will note down all those symptoms with the well-known details, the homeopathic details. And I will now show you the screens of this patient file for this first step. So you see the screen looks very simple. It has just here the first name and the last name, and then sex and age. These are the main fields, and then you can add anything: file information, birth information, address and contacts. This is one field that has been opened here, or you can just leave it and make it very simple and say first, last name, sex and age. This is the administration, all that needs to be done. Then you open a consultation here, you create a consultation, and as the pen icon indicates, you start to write. You write the symptoms as the patient has been telling them. And the little simple and smart trick here is that we write a symptom on each line. Those who are very savvy in the writings of Hahnemann may remember that in his organon, Hahnemann himself, giving instructions on how to write down, hand write down the case, wrote, write a symptom on each line. Nothing else than this we need to do on the electronic way. Type a symptom on each line. To go to a next line, we just hit tab and we can enter the next information. So maybe by now you have read this real case of a lady with sleeping problems, with a lot of fears and some other information. And then when we have taken the case, which of course may be more than this, but just showing it as a sample, we move on and we must analyze that case. And after collecting the information, we reflect what are the strong and striking symptoms, what are the symptoms that will help me to find a remedy, what are the themes that help me to prescribe, what is most important in this case. And we have a few tools that may help you to reflect in a homeopathic way about this information. This is the other little smart and simple trick. For example, we can attribute an intensity, you see 2, 3, 4, to certain symptoms that stand out strongly. Like fear to fail is the reason of sleeplessness. That's the chief complaint, that's the main complaint. Or what makes the patient suffer most acutely and more strongly is this panic when presenting something. So we put a 3 there. Just click and put a 3 on the symptom, okay? And these symptoms then are highlighted, stand out more strongly. Or another thing we can do is that we can label the symptoms with family anamnesis. You will see this icon here appearing if you click on this icon at the top. for the father died from cancer and the mother died from diabetes. So in this row, you can organize your information to make it very easily traceable and understandable. Most important, I would say, is that you label some symptoms with this green button, which tells you, helps you to remember what are the most important symptoms in this case. Okay, the ones on which you want to prescribe, the ones you want to remember when you are deciding which remedy to prescribe. Or just to give you one other example here, this icon is the multimedia icon. So you can add, in fact, multimedia information to any of those symptoms. Look here, here is the right mouse click menu. It shows you all the things you can tag and show and add. The list is even longer. If it doesn't fit on the screen, for example, to give you the precise example of the picture, here is a picture of the eczema patches on the leg, okay? And you keep it in the file, it's there to be retrieved whenever later. Now we prepare ourselves to analyze the case in a homeopathic way, which means if we click on this icon anywhere, then this screen pops up and shows us only the important symptoms, the ones we have labeled important. This is the summary, the core of the case, the nucleus, all right? And the next step we need to take is then to repertorize, as you know. So we find the symptoms in the repertory, we cross them, we differentiate them, and we prescribe. Here is how it goes. At the top, you see the famous summary, the 3 main symptoms. Fear of failure is here, second symptom. Sleeplessness from anxiety is the rubric that is best fitting. The fear to appear in public, forgetting the words, and then the time issue, anxiety when a time is set. I will not go into this part of the finding the symptoms, repertorizing the symptoms, etc., because I like to focus on the patient file part. But obviously, this is an easy process. You can do in another window of our program, the repertory part, and then find with a few clicks, mouse clicks with a few keystrokes, find and repertorize those symptoms and attach that repertorization to that consultation. We use the information from the repertory to be consistent and to be able to retrieve it very easily. And while doing that, there is one other simple and smart trick. That when you, for example, in this screen, which is at the bottom of the consultation screen and pops up if you move the mouse down, there you can prescribe a remedy. And you can, of course, it's Argentum nitricum, but we don't just write Argentum nitricum. We don't write arch-nit and then another term argent n or whatever. No, we use a standardized way to write this information. Same for the potency, same for the scale. And here is the example of what we call a pick list. And so instead of writing it ourselves, we merely pick a value out of a list. And here is the pick list of the different potencies, the different scales of homeopathic preparation, and we click on it. And we've done the same for potency, we've done the same for prescription, we can do the same for posology. For some hundreds of fields, we have pick lists in our patient file. And that is one of the strongest and most important tricks, because what is the problem? If you don't use a pick list and you write Argentum nitricum in a number of ways, and then later on you search to retrieve your Argentum nitricum cases, you'll find only part of them. On the other hand, if you did use the smart and simple trick to use the pick lists, and every time you use the arch-n, which is the standard synthesis abbreviation of the remedy, you will retrieve all your Argentum nitricum cases. And the same story I can tell you for any other information. So that's a very important feature of our patient file, that we use pick lists, and that we ask you to use pick lists when entering information, because it will help you to retrieve information much more easily. The same we do for the pathologies. Here, prescription was this little sub-window, pathologies is the current sub-window, and we look for the pathology with words. We can enter a number of words, 1 word, 2 words, and the possibilities will show up from the list of the ICD-10 code. The ICD-10 code is a standard disease classification we follow, and when you enter, in this case, panic disorder, automatically the correspondent ICD-10 code F41.0 is added. Why is this a very simple but very smart trick? Because this will allow us to communicate through language barriers. The ICD-10 code F41.0 is panic disorder in all the languages. ICD-10 has been translated in many languages. Actually, we have incorporated the ICD-10 codes in 7 languages in our program. And so in Italian, Spanish, French, etc., user can look for the pathology in his, her language, and then appears the ICD-10 code F41. So later in the next step, at the end of my conversation, my lecture, when we speak about collecting, putting together all our information of users working in different languages, the ICD-10 code will allow us to look for the panic disorder patients of all of us, whether we speak English or French or Italian, whatever. So this is a very, very smart trick. And that's why it is written here in kindly nudging gray, nevertheless, the clear word mandatory. And so we suggest that you enter at least 1 pathology for every patient. Okay? Now, this closes the first consultation. There are a few little tricks that I have described. The patient goes home, takes the remedy, and then comes back. So what is typical? What do we need to care for at the follow-up consultation? Well, basically, first of all, we do the same things. We write consultation tags, we add some tags to understand the information, possibly new information came. So we may add another picture, we prescribe again, and as I will show you, most important, we will add the evaluation of the trend of the pathology. I'll show you this in screens. At the top here, you see the first consultation. You may remember this text of the first consultation, okay? Then by clicking to add a consultation, another window appears, and you can start writing again 1 sentence in 1 cell, database, it's a cell, and then writing that the sleep, for example, has improved, that there was less stress when preparing lectures, that the patient is less nervous in front of students, etc. We can start adding the tags again to make this, this consultation also easily digestible, readable, analyzable. And if the patient comes back, we can take another picture. Just here is the example. The eczema did improve a lot, cannot believe it. And here we see the legs of the patient at the current state. Now, this is a little joke. Of course, these are not the legs of the patient, but everything else in this case is real. It's based on a real case. Statistics and everything I will tell you is based on a real case, okay? Then again, to be serious, this is the point, is to add the evaluation, the trend of the pathology. This happens when you click on this icon, the balance icon, evaluation, okay? And then for a certain consultation, the 2nd or maybe the 5th, whatever, you can then, to the pathology, add an evaluation according to the known Glasgow scale, which goes from +4 to -4, total disaster, total cure. And I have chosen for this patient to say there was a major improvement, okay? This can also be represented on a graph. If there are more dates, you will see a graph showing the evolution. Very nice. In any way, what the point I want to make here is that if we evaluate the case, then we can conclude, we can make a conclusion, we can say this case has become conclusive. Yeah? That this is a nice case of eczema, this is a nice case of panic disorder, this is a nice case of argentum nitricum. And at the moment that you decide to conclude this case, you are ready to switch and send the case to Clifical. You conclude, and then it takes only 2 clicks to send it to Clifical. Between brackets, and I'm not aware if this is important in South Africa or Australia, but in Europe, since May, it has become law, European directive. It's also compulsory in United States, in Canada, it's called PIPEDI, I believe. So more and more countries have sent out, have created regulations to protect the privacy of people, and sensitive health information, patient information is one very sensitive issue there. And so our softwares and your practices need to be GDPR, HIPAA, whatever, compliant, which means that when you send a case in the cloud, as Clifical does, these cases need to be anonymized. We take care that they are anonymized automatically for you. That data need to be encrypted, that there need to be password protection, etc. All these features are taken care of automatically by Radar Opus, probably the only real GDPR compliant software available today. Now let me go back to this. You have to know this GDPR compliance, privacy compliance. You have to know. You don't have to do anything. We take care of that for you. What you have to do is just the 2 clicks. The first one here is click on the Clifical icon on top of your general Radar Opus screen, and this opens another window where values are already entered, such as the remedy you've prescribed, the pathology you've prescribed, the language of your consultation text. And if you agree to these, this is a different case, if you agree to these, you can change them. But if you agree, you just say, send the case to Clifical and it's done. So it's really a 2-click approach from your practice, writing down the information of your patients, deciding this is a nice case, 2 clicks, and it's in the cloud. It's in the cloud, it's in Clifical. So this leads us to the question, what is this Clifical? What have I done? What have you done? And on this graph, I hope there is a little explanation that may explain this in a practical way. The green rectangles is your homeopathic software, is your Radar Opus. So we have the repertory part, we have the materia medica or references part, and we have Winship, which is the patient file. Now, as you can see from these angles in between, these arrows in between, all these parts are interconnected and speak to each other, send information from one to each other. How does it work? Like, for example, you may know with version 2.0, you can go to Materia Medica. If you find an interesting information there, you can import that information in your repertory and add that remedy to the rubric with reference back to the source information. And you can go back from Materia Medica to repertory as much as from repertory to Materia Medica. The only program that has this bidirectional link, linking the information of Materia Medica to repertory. We're doing the same in all directions, okay? So it's a fully integrative program, Radar Opus, repertories, Materia Medicas, and patient file information. Now let's go back to our focus, which is the patient file information. So once you've entered your daily work, you don't need to do anything extra. You just do it a little bit smart and a little bit electronic and use pick lists, which in fact also facilitate your work. You send these cases to Clifical, and that's what other people are doing as well. They can send cases, concluded cases, to Clifical, to this cloud. It's a database on the internet, a cloud as it is called, okay? And in that cloud, we have an increasing collection of cases by the different members of our community. That's the idea of Clifical. So if I look at my own computer, I can analyze my patients with this graph, which is basically showing that I have more female patients than male, the age distribution, which shows the most often prescribed remedies and the most often prescribed for pathologies, okay? Just to give you some examples. And Glyphicol, just another way to say it, it's just the same in the cloud. Okay? This is the interface of Glyphicol, where also patients of different homeopaths are analyzed in this nice graph by sex, by age, the different pathologies, and the remedies are a little lower. Okay? And what is interesting is that this database is searchable. Today, it is searchable by pathology and by prescription and also by language, because we upload the consultation text. And you may be interested to know, I only understand English, I only understand Spanish, so please give me the cases where there is some Spanish text, okay? You enter it and you find the information. You find which information? Well, the reply is very easy, it's always the same. Whatever you enter, you can search for. So if someone says, I'm very interested in, let's say, high blood pressure, in blood pressure and weight, you enter these values for every patient. Later on, you can search for it and verify if calcaria indeed is always a very fat person or not. You can calculate it. Eh? Or you enter the repertory symptoms, you link them to the clinical symptoms, you can make verifications there. There's so many possibilities. I'm going to show you one example that personally I found quite exciting, and this is about carcinosinum, the remedy, the famous remedy. We have a whole lot of patients with prescriptions, with carcinosinum prescriptions, but we only investigate the patients that have reacted very strongly, make a real confident database subset on patients of carcinosinum that have done very well. So this is a +3 or 4 on the Glasgow scale, which means major improvement or totally cured back to normal. Okay? This is based on 32 successful carcinosinum cases. Now tell me, for those patients that to whom I have prescribed carcinosinum successfully, what was the pathology? And then we see here this nice graph automatically generated, which tells me that is dermatosis, asthma, allergy, eczema in the first place. Now, what is exciting about this? And you may want to check what I'm saying. You know, it was Donald Fubister in London who created this remedy and started to prescribe it in the first place. Now, in his very first paper, dozens of years ago, last century, so to say, he wrote that according to his experience, this remedy came in most especially if the case was allergic, asthmatic, eczematous, etc., etc. So now today, so many years later, in another country, in another place, on another time and space, we find the same pathologies leading in carcinosinum patients. That is evidence. And in this way, we can use Glyphicol in so many ways. Eh? There was another idea, I come just back home from the European Committee of Homeopathy Congress in Sofia, and there was this idea our nosodes are threatened. And what can we do? We can discuss and say, listen, there are no side effects, this is okay, this may be looking like a disease product, but there are no side effects. We have a whole history of so many years of using them, and there is no intoxication, etc. There's no contagious problem, etc., etc. Okay, these discussions, we have them already. These arguments, we have them already. But with your help, if you upload a few cases of nosodes, successful cases of nosodes, we create an evidence base where we can say, listen, this medorinum, we have here 1, 2, 3, 10, 20, 30, 100 cases of medorinum where patients clearly show that through this remedy, using this remedy, their eczema, their migraine, their whatever has been cured in an undisputable way. So we create an evidence base by joining our efforts in this clinical database. And this is the whole idea. This is the whole idea of my lecture. And this is how I connect daily work, what you do in daily practice, nothing different from what you can do, only a little bit in a structured way, how it can connect it to contributing to the larger goal, the goal of clinical, the importance of clinical. You can share a case because you feel it's nice and you publish it, but you can contribute in the same way, in the same effort to this worldwide case collection, okay? And then read all the advantages we have if we collaborate in this easy way. Now the tool is there, all it needs is people who are ready to participate and to work on it and to feed it. And then we'll have so many possibilities when speaking to the authorities, when doing research, etc. So I hope I created a little enthusiasm for you. I am now showing this last screen where the different ways are written down to contact us, and especially my team through the email, the scientific team through the email. Of course, you have your local representatives. There is one little, before we go to the questions, Werner, there is one little thing I would like to mention still, and that is that we are almost ready releasing a demo, a fully working demo. So the full program fully working. You will be able to download it. It's a version 2.1, the latest version. And if you can just click or photograph this QR code, you will go to the download section of our website, radiopus.com. And today you will see that it leads you to the list of representatives. In a few weeks, when you go to the same page, to the same place on our website, it will show you the actual download and you can install it, use it 1 month, and then hopefully, probably, I guess so, be enthusiastic and start using our program for real, and even more so possibly contributing to this worldwide database of clinical evidence just by doing your daily work in a simple way, but using a very smart tool. That's my lecture, and I'm very open and curious to know your feedback and to have a few questions.
Wonderful. Thank you, Frederik. It's so important, this whole thing of evidence-based. It came up in our LMHI conference that we had here in Cape Town in September. And I believe that you were at the Sofia conference last weekend.
Yes.
It also came up as an important issue, getting the evidence base there.
Okay.
So a question from Dr. Benjamin Hurrier from Cape Town. He says, good afternoon. Is Clinical an open or /free access database? No.
We have been working, when did we start working? The first meeting actually we had on Clinical was somewhere in 87. So from 87, we've done the Clinical 3 times because we came again and again against the limits of the tools we were using. Now we have created Clinical the 3rd time based on a so-called Postgres database. For those who want a little technical explanation. To say it in human language, Postgres is a database structure that can manage millions of units of information. It's the ones used by Instagram, by the banks, etc. And so we are now on a very high level. All those years we have been working for you. To offer this for free would mean, how can I say, that we haven't been eating or renting a house. So I'm sorry, but we hope you understand. We expect a little contribution from the community by buying our tools. It's not for free.
Great. Benjamin, Dr. Hur actually asked me a question last week when we had a meeting as well. His concern was that some patients are a little bit averse to actually having you type and doing things on your computer while you're talking with them. How do you bridge that gap, Frederik?
that gap is a, how shall I say, it's, I apologize to say, it's almost the imagination. Because I invite you to do a very simple test. You have the patient in front of you and you write down everything, okay?
Yes.
Put a camera on yourself, or imagine you look at yourself. While you are writing down, as I will do now, I look at my paper all the time, and then from time to time to my patient. When you are typing, even if you're a beginner with the current possibilities of autocorrection, etc., you can type, look at the screen, you see my face. I look at the screen to which I type, this is my real office, and I almost see the patient at the same time. And then if you become a little bit more savvy in typing, then you can even look at the patient while you're typing, because you're typing blind. So it's a little bit of imagination to say that working with a computer would give you less contact with the patient. In fact, if you know a little bit of typing, especially blind typing, you have more visual contact with the patient. The second argument I give, or reply I give to this argument that is coming up quite so often, is that today, I'm sorry, in the real world where we live, you go to the bank, you go to the supermarket, you go to whatever office or service, people are checking and entering information on screen. So they say, oh, my patients don't like a screen. Then you live in another world, I'm sorry. The world is through screens and digital. This is accepted and normal in so many fields already.
Sure, sure. Thank you. Then from Marie, is it desirable to retrospectively enter completed cases to Cliffycall or only new cases from now on?
You can do both. You can, we have another project, so one of our projects in India, where people are desiring and wishing and are able to enter information retrospectively because they have a set of very important cases they feel. And so it's very easy. They create a patient. They enter the first consultation on a certain date. They can change the date. I mean, different from today or the day they would do the work. They enter the second consultation, etc. So it's totally possible to enter cases in retrospect. And of course, to enter the new patient of today or tomorrow appearing in your practice is even more easy.
Sure, sure. Okay, I see what has happened here. Marie typed now that it's not her question, but I think what happened was that, Marie, you might have forwarded your email to some people, and the system allows one to get in with more than one link, or more than one person to get in with one link. So somebody else is underneath her name in the system.
Okay, so Marie. Okay, fine.
You will have to figure out with your attendees who was who.
Anyway, the reply has been heard by all. Eh?
It was Lynn Lee. Okay.
Okay, was there another question, Werner?
I see Dr. Ben Wolfson has his hand raised.
Yes.
Let's see. Ben, if you can kindly just type in your question for me in the chat, then we can quickly take care of it.
Okay.
Let's see, Ben, if you have a mic, I can allow you to talk as well if you want to ask a question. Would you like that? Sorry, one Q&A, let's see there. Okay, Ben, I'm going to unmute you and then you can quickly ask your question. There we go. Ben, you should be able to ask your question now.
Okay, hi. Great presentation, thanks very much. What I wanted to ask is the Cliffycall just related to radar, or are other software companies collaborating on such a system or a similar system as well? You know, I'm just thinking to get more evidence, you know, larger evidence base available.
Yes. For the moment, and I don't know if there will be a change, it is related to reader opus for the simple reason that the patient file part is a part of reader opus. So the way you enter all the fields, the name, the administrative thing, the text, the repertorization, which can be attached, part of the whole thing, the evaluation, etc., etc. It's all fields and code of reader opus, you see? And so then this is sent to Clifical. So for the moment, it means that reader opus is the way to, how shall I say, there you have to start, is a starting point. When you use this, you can send information to Clifical. It is not related to other softwares. However, and maybe this is also your question in some way, we've come across research teams who would like to do a research, and then they say, okay, we have 10 people, 20 people who would like to collaborate in our research project X, and there's a few users of another software. What shall we do? And then our reply is that we have created what we call a Radar Opus Mini Clifical. So the smallest possible Radar Opus, which we will be able to offer for the smallest possible price, and which will just allow you to do a short repertorization, even with scanned only, to make it very cheap, with a few materia medicas, but to enter everything in the patient file and to send the case to Clifical. And so you can use this very cheap Radar Opus Mini as a starter, and then you can leave it like this, or you can maybe become enthusiastic and decide you want to continue using Radar Opus. The information on this Radar Opus Mini is also on our website, radaropus.com, under the section Features. There is this comparative table where you will see that we have a Radar Opus Mini engine, very cheap, speak to your local representatives, and allowing people to contribute to Clifical if they don't want to use, how shall I say, a full-blown, and pay for a full-blown Radar Opus.
Sorry, there we go. I muted myself. Then again from Dr. Benjamin Herr, he asks, does Clifical work with Radar 10?
No, no. Radar 10 is dead and buried. I apologize to say. The last time we wrote on that code was in 2009. So in computer terms, this is Stone Age. So please convert to Radar Opus as soon as you can. We are now in a new age and new era, the Radar Opus era.
If I may add to that, Radar 10 is obsolete, completely obsolete. It is not supported by the manufacturers anymore. Just like Windows XP is not supported by Microsoft anymore.
Yeah.
So, and it's not secure. It simply isn't secure. So I don't see any other questions. Frederik, do you want to hold on while I quickly run through the rest? Or
yeah, please. If maybe something comes up, I gladly wait here. Yeah.
Good stuff. So if you can just stop sharing your screen, then I can share my screen again.
Okay.
Wonderful. Great, all good. So just a very, very brief overview of Radar Opus. I really do not want to go into details. I'm not going to show you screens or do a demo. It's really just to touch on the basic fundamentals that make us different and really set us apart. Number one, yes, there are other softwares that also have one interface, but our interface is truly everything in one, where you even have the patient file, which Frederik showed now, the WinChip part, all included within one interface where you can access repertory, materia medica, journals, therapeutic books, what have you, all from one place. We are absolutely the only software that uses the synthesis repertory, which is widely acknowledged as the leading repertory. It is the standard used at most schools for teaching. It's not the most inclusive repertory, but it's probably the most accurate repertory. And we also have tools to help you with the accuracy. So inclusivity is not sacrificed for reliability. There's a massive materia medica library, probably the largest available currently in any software. The patient management database that you've just seen Frederik show. And the really beautiful thing is that you can combine different approaches in homeopathy all in one software. So you can take Heine-Frey's polarity analysis method, or you can use Herskew's cycles and segments method, or you can even use Scher's mental qualities repertory, all within one program. Yes, it's the only software that contains synthesis, but you can also add other repertories into your program. There are repertory packages, additional repertories to add, for example, Bunninghausen's repertory. So you can easily, very easily, use symptoms from different repertories all into one case analysis. A very unique tool which no other software has is our repertory views, which is, if you consider that within synthesis, even though it has not sacrificed reliability for inclusivity, it is more inclusive than it was in the past. So there are some provings that are, depending on your philosophy, all right, some provings or some material which might be less reliable, considered by some people as less reliable. So the repertory views is a very easy filter. It's just a click of a button and select to determine what information you want to include in your synthesis repertory or that you want to exclude. And you can do that within the repertory view, or you can do that within your analysis as well. So it's very easy to exclude, for example, if you consider dream provings to be unreliable, just a click from the repertory views, boom, that information is gone. So very useful tool. Yes, you can add additional repertories as well. It has a beautiful families and miasmatic filters available from your, very easily available or applicable from your analysis window. What I really like is the integrated browser, which is a very easy tool to be able to find pictures of herbs or pictures of plants through the Google Images search functionality. It's actually integrated into the Radar Opus interface. So if you look for a remedy and you can't find it, you can just click the Google button and you can go straight to Google Images and it will search there. It integrates with the Synthesis app. So for mobility, you can have the Synthesis app on your phone, do your searches if you're at a patient, and easily email that analysis to yourself, and then you can import it into your Radar Opus program. And there's a dedicated training website, which is radaropusacademy.us, where you can access multiple videos on training, on all the features. That's just in a nutshell some things to consider. From a Radar Opus 2.1 point of view, which is the latest version that was just released about, what's it, 2 or 3 weeks ago, Frederik?
Yeah.
Yeah. It has a very new, well, there's some refinements to the technology to really make it more responsive and to make it quicker in terms of doing searches, doing analysis, etc. There's a beautiful new content updater which allows you to import information from colleagues, so you can share repertory additions between colleagues, or it allows the manufacturers also to send you repertory additions for free integration into your synthesis repertory. Also payable books that can be downloaded, obviously ordered through your local rep. So the new content updater is a really, really useful feature. This has been an issue for quite a lot of people because many people work on the big Mac screens now and big monitors that are either 2K or 4K resolution. So that is compatible now with Radar Opus. We've got keyless software protection now, so that is the default, where we do not need to plug in the little dongle anymore. Some people still prefer it, but it is not necessary anymore. And a much simpler installation process. It was really, compared to in the past, we had disk and disk and disk and put this DVD in and take out this DVD and insert this DVD again. It's so simple now. You can actually download the software and install. And Frederik actually showed some of the patient graphs that you can do from the patient database. So those are also new features. The remedy catalog has now been expanded to 7,791 remedies. It doesn't mean you will find information of all those remedies in Radar Opus, but it facilitates so that when that information becomes available, the remedy is already in the catalog. A very simple feature to quickly combine rubrics with one click. And then what I really like is the facility, Frederik alluded to that, the ability to very easily incorporate additions into your synthesis repertory now. But you can do that from taking information from your Materia Medica search, and let's say that information is not in a rubric that you think it should be in. You can create that link to import it from the Materia Medica into the repertory, and that link is bidirectional. So you can very easily, with one single click, go back to the original source, and that original source is also included in that actual rubric information of the author reference. So it's a really, really beautiful feature to expand your repertory based on information that you would like to include. It has a beautiful big bookmark facility. So it's very easy to create bookmarks that you can later on refer back to within the Materia Medica or the references section. And then the help section, which is interactive, and it's also context sensitive, so, or contextual. So within the section that you are in the program, if you press help, you will get help relating specifically to that section. And then on the menu in the program, there is now a news button, which will allow you to very quickly see updated news from Radar Opus or some industry related information. I purposely don't show slides because from South Africa, our bandwidth is sometimes problematic, and then the screen shows slowly and all those sort of things. So I purposely didn't put pictures and I'm not showing the program. So that brings us to the end, guys. Thank you very much, Frederik, for your time. Much appreciated.
My pleasure.
Such an honor and a privilege to be able to get someone of your caliber to do some of these things for us. We really appreciate your time, and I appreciate how difficult it is to get you scheduled to do these things. So,
no problem, no problem. It's a pleasure.
And with that, I'm going to say goodbye to everybody. We did record this, so
yes.
We will make it available.
To Werner and to Marie for supporting our project in your respective countries from the whole Belgian Italian team.
Yes, absolutely. And thank you for Marie for climbing in to get the numbers up in this webinar, as well with getting her Australian people in there as well.
Yes.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, and goodbye, guys.
Bye-bye.